Alright, I'm going to solve this by factoring. Now, the thing is, this is already factored, so I don't have to use factoring, it's already factored. And what you do here when you have two things multiplied equals 0, what you have to realize is to solve this, one of these two values has to equal 0. Because if this equals 0, 0 times whatever this is will be 0. And if this equals 0, then whatever this 0 times whatever this is equals 0. So basically, once again, one of these two, or one of these has to equal 0. So there's two answers. When does this equal 0? When does this equal 0? If you solve those would make it true. Now this only works if you have a product of two things equals 0. Okay, the key is it's equal to 0. And so you set each piece equal to 0. And then you simply solve it. Now some of you could have looked at this and knew it was negative 3, because negative 3 plus 3 is 0. This one's a little bit harder, so we kind of want to finish it off. Most people can't just look at it and find it. So we added the 5 over, and then we are going to divide by 3. And so x equals 5 over 3. If you were to plug these two answers, 3 into both those, you get 0. You plug this into both those, you get an answer of 0. Again, this is already in factor form. Now, number 2, I want to solve this, but what I want to do is I want to factor this so it looks like this. And the way we factor this is we do a little like x thing, the negative 8 on top, the 2 on bottom. And now we're thinking of two numbers that multiply to get negative 8 and add to get 2. I believe that's 4 and negative 2. So we have x plus 4, x minus 2 equals 0. Now this looks a lot like this. So what we did here is we set each piece equal to 0. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to set the first piece equal to 0 and the second piece equal to 0. Now some of you could look at this and go, oh, that's negative 4, because negative 4 plus 4 is 0. Or you could just solve it. Subtract 4 over, x equals negative 4. And here some of you could tell it's 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. But if you just add 2 over, you also see the answer, 2. So those are the two answers when you plug in here what equals 0. Again, in order to do this process, it has to equal 0. What that means is this look like this? No, because this one does not equal 0. So the first step on this last one is to move everything over to equal it to 0. So what you're going to do is you're going to add the x over, and I now have x squared plus 3x equals 10. And then, oh, I got to get this to go to 0, so I'm going to minus the 10 over. The 10 can't subtract from either, so I'm just going to put it underneath. So it looks like I now have x squared plus 3x minus 10 equals 0, because the minus 10 cannot subtract from those two. Now this looks like this, so it looks like we're going to factor. So negative 10 on top, 3 on bottom. Two numbers that multiply to get negative 10 and add to get 3. I believe that's 5 and negative 2. So we have x plus 5, x minus 2. And now this should look like this. Again, you get everything to one side, so you get equal to 0, then you factor and you solve. And you're going to set each piece equal to 0. And hopefully by now you can just look at this and go, oh, this one's negative 5 because negative 5 plus 5 is 0. And this one's 2 because 2 minus 2 is 0. There's your two answers. Most of these kind of problems have two answers.